Revernauts. It's Chief Engineer Rever looking down at the Reverstan Space Agency complex. And in between this episode and the last, I have done much to learn about the remote tech on a outside the game or kind of, a mod notice. I wanted to let you guys know I did two things. I switched from the FuseBoxMod to this AmpYear power management. So what the reason is that as we get into satellites, we're going to need to be able to do like some dark side calculations. And I was having an issue with seeing the dark side calculator. I'm not sure if that's because of my screen resolution or what with the other FuseBoxMod. So we've switched to AmpYear. I'll put notes in the description along with the other mod list. And then the other thing that I did was there was a mod called RemoteTech SETI-ProbeControl. And what that let you do was control the probes when they lost the signal. So, in my testing, I figured out that, well, we really I don't want to be able to control the SETI probes unless we actually have a signal, which will force us to build a satellite network, right? So, but it also makes the game much, much more challenging in that respect. So, yes. So anyway, but before we get into the satellites and all, I think that there is a contract that we can do that is very similar. So I did come in here and let's take a look at all. And our general focus is going to be getting the SETI contracts done as we can. So let's come into here and take a look at each one. The moon flyby is a probe, but I know based on the RemoteTech mod, we're not going to be able to do that right away. If you were just using the regular communications of Kerbal, then you would be able to do this. So we're not going to be able to do that one. The Kerbal powered landing is fine. I mean, we could do that at any time, and we will certainly get some money from it. Not a whole lot, but it's something we need to practice and build basically a landing craft that we could potentially even land on the moon, or at least advance our knowledge in that area. But we're going to, skip over that for now because we're not nearly ready to land on the moon yet. So, and again, we could do that any time. But this one is an interesting one, and that it is, just to launch a Kerbal around to orbit. Well, we already did that, right? But this time we need to keep them up there for 72 hours before coming back. Well, that's really not that much different than what we did. We just have to have a good, stable orbit and pretty much enough electricity to get that done. So let's accept this one. Now, in thinking about it, remember we did our current vessel has 2 people in it. We did a tourism contract. So if we take a look, there is another tourism contract here that we can do. So this tourism contract is, bring 1 Kerbal into orbit, which we already did that, right? These other ones are orbital trajectories, and you have to go over a certain location, I think, or at least, the southern mountains here or the North Pole. And we're not really, that might be doable, but we're not all set up for it like we are this one, right? Like just go into low orbit. That's what we did in the last episode. So let's get into low orbit. How's that sound? So let's accept this one as well. Now, to come back, another thing you want to do periodically, if you haven't played Kerbal, is they usually have some missions here that say at the landing pad or at the launch site. And these other ones, like into flight above Kerbin, like these are all flight ones, which will be a little trickier. We could probably do them, but I'm looking for these really easy ones like this TT38K radial decoupler, which I know we have, right? That's like the basic decoupler for like decoupling the boosters. So I'm going to accept this mission because all we have to do is stage it through the sequence. Like we could just just stick it on something and then like stage it, like super easy. There we go. And then when it comes to the satellites, we'll talk about that after we get this last thing. But these 2 satellites are, for orbiting the moon, which is a little bit beyond us at this point. We can't even do a flyby, I don't think. But we could launch into an orbit. So we'll take a look at those orbits in a little while. But let's get our man launched, right? Now again, we got a little bit of extra money for accepting those missions, but what we really want to do here is we really need to get this to be upgraded so we get 255 parts. So we still might have issues with the weight on our landing pad, but at least we won't be limited by this 30 parts. We really need to get this upgraded. So that's really our goal for the next few episodes, is to do things to get this money up. We'll, obviously the SETI contracts are a priority in a way, but so is this. So let's enter here. And what I'm thinking of is we basically send up the same exact vehicle again. So we'll open here and we'll go to Puncher 4, right, which is the one we took the people up last time, right? And it got us into orbit well. And, I don't know that there's anything we don't want to do or that we do want to do. Now, well, that's not true. I think what I'd like to do is I did experiment with learning the RemoteTech mod. So I'm a little bit more familiar, and there's a few things I had to do sort of on my test map kind of thing. But I think what we want to do is get the better solar cells for this so that we can put an antenna on here. So this antenna will let us send space back, or space back. It'll let us send science back. Like the other one that's on this by default will let us, control the vessel and communicate, but it doesn't actually let us send the science back. We would have to bring it back physically, I think. So, but now we're up to 29, so we can't, if we just put one of those solar cells, I'm worried about these guys surviving. But the fact is that, here, let's save this. Let's make it Puncher 5, because this will be the next mission, right? Here, we'll save that. Not launch. Let's come over here, because I know one thing that we can afford that will help us a good amount is this basic science. It'll give us some more science when we're able to put more things on there, this Science Junior, which is like the goo containers. But we also get these photovoltaic cells, and it gives us some better relays, which I don't think we really relay satellites, these dish satellites, which we don't need right now, but we'll get into later on. But the big thing I'm interested in is getting these photovoltaic panels so that we can get them up into space and start getting, it's better, much better way to get our electricity. So anyway, let's research that and then come back into our launch facility. Now, we got to watch out, even slight changes, this craft aerodynamics do count. So we'll try to put this someplace that it's going to be aerodynamically friendly. We'll get to electrical. And I guess we might as well go with the more expensive one that gets us a few more. If you see there, it says electrical charge 1.6. This one's only 0.7. So while this is probably just going to burn up and not be recoverable, I think we should just put, let's just not take our chances with the lives, right? So that they should have plenty of electrical charge. Now we can see here, that we can only store 250. So, but we can produce plenty. So hopefully we'll be in good shape there. And we'll have our little communication satellite. So I think this is a minor yet good improvement. So let's save it. And so yeah, everything else should be good. Nothing else has changed. All of our staging. Yep, so let's launch this guy. Oh, jeez. All right, it doesn't count when I do it here. So let's just revert the flight back to the vehicle assembly. We need to make sure we have the tourist. Nope, we got Pietro. No offense, Pietro, but you can't take this flight. And good, Radomir's fine because I'd rather get Radomir I think Pietro was the last pilot anyway if we're doing our rotation. But Radomir already has 1 star and Radomir doesn't. All right, so here we go. Let's, I don't think it matters if I go back there, but let's save that, just why not? And then let's launch it. Okay, here we are on the launch site. Let's see if we can't give it a little SAS, and we'll give it full throttle for a second. Now, how much do we have? Yeah, I like to throw the throttle down to where we kind of need it in case we're going too fast. Like I'd rather have a little leeway to, like we don't have to blast at full throttle when we do the staging thing. So other than that, you know, yeah, let's just, do we check our thrust to weight ratio? 0.3 is a little bit low, but I think we'll be okay. So let's close these two. We have our flight computer on there so we can see our height. Look, we're 75 meters tall, so we're already there. Let's see, can we move this over just a bit? And we shrunk this down, so I know you guys can't read that. I can read it, it's very small. But the real point will be, can we see these green bars here? This is our science now. So we can't do any science now anyway. So, all right, so I think we're ready. Time and energy are burning. So I don't think there's any reason. We've already checked our staging. We don't really need to worry about it because this is a reused rocket, right? All right, so let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, we're just going to try to get into a nice around 100-kilometer orbit. And we're just not going to mess with much with this unless it's starting to get squirrely on us, which it has tended to do in the past, from what I remember. So let's just try to keep him pointing a little less straight up. I just don't want him to get off to the side too much until we're past this solid rocket booster part. I do want to try to make an equatorial orbit. So you're wanting to go down that way. I don't want you to go down that way. I want you to stay up here. Now when we get... There we go. Stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm. Stay calm. Come on. No. I have to do a lot of controlling here. AmpYear is steering his butt off. Come on. I really want that gimbaling engine going. Back to normal. Almost done with those boosters. I think we'll have a lot more control. Yeah, you see that gimbaling rocket really makes a big... Ooh, what are you doing there? Still squirrely. Let's try to keep this kind of going nice. Let's just not fight it too much. There we go. We're getting nice and stable now. If we can keep it tilting this way a bit. We're going to stop that. There we go. We got into like the next jump there, so we'll keep it going. Let's put it right on the 45-degree burn mark. We're pretty close to it. Right on the 90 line is the most important thing if we want to be equatorial. Got my finger on the cutoff button. We'll stop it when we get up to about 90. There we go. Cut the engines. Let's well, we're not high enough. Let's get out of the atmosphere first. Let's jump over to our map mode. And then I want to put in a node just so we have an idea what we're doing. All right, let's bring it down a little bit to about 100. There we go. That should be a nice burn. Now, I don't know why this sits here and says we don't have enough, but let's start turning over towards this blue circle. There we go. See how now it says we have enough? But we're going to need to stage in this, right? So it's good to know. And also, we need to burn like at least 30 seconds before. We might even try to burn a little bit ahead of that. There we go. All right, now stop. Stop. Yeah, like I don't want to get... Yeah, okay. We're going to just... give it a little throttle so I have a little more control. And then give her full throttle. There you go. Stay right on that blue dot right there, please. You know what? I don't like the blue dot because it's... I'd rather bring this orbit a little bit up this way. Yeah, so let's jump back over to here. Oops, here, so we can stage this bad boy. Try to keep an eye on our periapsis and apoapsis up there. And Radamir's not doing the greatest job, needing to help him a whole lot. Yeah, we're going to run out of thrust here. We're going to need to stage pretty quickly. Not that urgent, but... So I got my hand on the finger on the staging button. Alright. Get that periapsis. I don't want the other one to go above 100. There we go. It went above 100, but I'm okay with that. All right, so let's close this maneuvering node. The good news is we are actually in an orbit. So if we look at our contract, we didn't test this yet, but yeah, say we're in an orbit. But what I want to do is just take a minute to circularize our orbit, right? So we'll bring our apoapsis up to our periapsis up to about 105, so that we have a nice circular orbit here. All right, so let's. Oops, there we go. Trying to get it to where I can see. And so the camera's in here a little bit weird, but we're going to come here. Now we can look down in the bottom left there, right? And we can actually come here and adjust it. Oh, see that too much. Yeah, so that you turn this strength down here, and then we can. It'll move it a lot slower. We have time before this maneuver would happen, so. Let's bring this back down a bunch. And I'm just looking on the bottom left there for now. There we go. Close. Yeah. And we'll just try to get them, pretty 5.5. See, and then you can click this like that and get it. There you go. Pretty as close as you ever would need to be. So we would need to burn for 0.9 seconds at full throttle. And we need to do it in 7 minutes. So what I would like to do is come over. This is one of the nice things. There's two nice things about the Kerbal alarm clock. One is when you're doing these things, you can fast forward without worrying about going past it. Then the other thing is just reminders for what's going on, right? So like in other words, when we're not going to sit here and spin for 6 days in game. So I'm just going to time warp until we get close to that, and it'll automatically stop us when we get to 3 minutes. Now we can change that. You can do it at any time, but that gives you plenty of time. Say if we close the alarm, and we could close Kerbal alarm clock for the minute, and we could probably close this contracts thing. So let's get over pointing at this, and then we might fast forward a little bit more. So if we're pointing here now, Radamir should have a lot better time with the SAS once we're there. Now once we fast there, say he's holding the SAS a little bit longer. Now let's fast forward time a little bit just to get it down. It kind of freezes everything, so you don't have to worry about like adjusting. We'll get it down to about 30 seconds. Okay. So now, yeah, I don't think this is too exacting a maneuver here for us, but we'll, and we're going to burn slower. So I'm going to, let's start it at like 10 seconds, but we're just going to burn like real slow and just get it, try to be accurate more than anything else. Right, as long as you're close, it's not that. There you go. See, so that's really, really slow. We can go a little faster. See what I mean? So we're taking up, quite a few seconds anyway. And I'm keeping an eye on my periapsis down there as much as anything, but theoretically that should work out well with both of them. Like, in other words, there we go. Pretty darn close. So let's close this off. And there we go. We have them in a very nice orbit. So let's take a look at the craft before we leave them here in space. And if you notice, we have no local control, right? But watch what happens when I activate this antenna. Now we have local control. And if we did do science, we can transmit it now where we couldn't have before, right? And the reason I mention that is when it comes into satellites, we really need to we need to get this antenna open on the satellites like ASAP so that we can control them. Now we can control this craft because we have a person in it, but it's important when we do our probe stuff to keep that in mind. Okay, so there we are. We are in space. And did we open that cell? Yep, it's open, but it's turning towards the sun, but we're on the, like as always, we're in the darkness here in Kerbal. So let's see. This guy should stay in the same exact trajectory we leave him. So I want to spin him around so that that solar panel is facing away from the Earth. I'm not sure how well you guys can see that, but in retrograde here, it's just the way we're rotated. It seems to be doing a better job. And I would tell him to hold retrograde, but I'm not real sure that how well he would do that. So there we go. So hopefully we don't use up all our power and these guys die, but we should be in reasonably good shape. And you know what? I do want to rotate them a little bit more. Again, I know you guys can't see. I apologize. It's just, oh, there we go. Look, we're getting some sun, right? All right, let's stop. Stop the rotation. There you go. Good. We're getting a little daylight. So see, this solar panel, as we go around in the same exact trajectory, should be able to get some sun. See, look, we're already green, which over here, which means we're creating more power than we're using. We're using very little. So there we go. So I'm just going to leave them just like that, and we should be in pretty good shape. That's why you want to put solar panels around it if you have enough parts in your vehicle construction building. So there we go. So I'm happy. We are working on a mission. So let's, why can't I do that? I'm not sure. All right, let's go to the Space Center. These guys, we'll check up on them, you know, before too long passes, but they should be okay for some hours. I see them getting sunlight now, and they just have to spend the next 72 hours or 12 Kerbal days up there. So what do we have here? Contract completed. Oh, that was from the last one. Yeah, manned orbit and space tourism. So there we go. So why don't we go and do this TT38K decoupler thing real quick. I'll show you how these are really easy to do. So we're just going to pick an engine, the first engine, and we're going to go to coupling, and we're going to stick a decoupler on there. And as a matter of fact, I think we need, let's just, oh, no. There you go. Just that controller on there. I don't know if we need that or not, but it won't hurt. All right, and then the staging, yeah, we don't want to fire the rocket. We just want to fire this. So one of the things to note with these contracts is, you know, you need to perform the test through the staging sequence, right? If it says that, that means you have to like hit your space bar or for me, it's the A button. And actually, you know, you can't just right click on it and say test it. So, all right, we're not even going to save that. We're just going to come out here and yeah, here we go. So let's come over here and, you know, I'm just going to hit the staging. Just knocked our thing over, and who knows who we killed sitting over there, but, you know, we got our contract completed, you know, so we got almost $5,000. Plus we got whatever advance potential. I think we got an advance for that. I forget how much, but doesn't matter. So we got a few more space dollars or rubles. All right, so let's just recover the vessel. All right, so let's talk about the next things that we need to do. And I'm kind of worried about what we need to do, because we need to get control from these things, right? If we go up there and we lose control, we can lose a probe. So I think from all of my experiences in testing and in learning from the Reverstan Remote Tech University, if we take a look, we have if we go close enough, see these stations? We have to stay within range of these stations. So what I'm thinking we should do is just launch a satellite. See how this guy is in range of this station? That's how he's getting control. Now, he also has control because he's Radomir, but if this was a satellite, we would need control from one of these stations or from a relay satellite. So I think what I would like to do is try to build like the simplest relay satellite we can get away with, just so that we know that we'll have control, hopefully, for any of the other things we want to do. If we zoom out, what I would like to work on next is these, well, probably this polar orbit, right? Because we could put like a relay satellite in this orbit, but the problem is I don't think he'll work when he gets to certain places, right? Like, so he might be blocked by he might not be able to reach any of these at certain points. But if we can get a little satellite just going around like the way Puncher 5 is there, you know, we can use that as a relay to go to any other satellites that we need to. I'll show you what I mean. So this is just going to be a pure expense for us, but I think it'll give us a lot more flexibility, and it'll also, you know, be a relatively simple thing to do. So let's go into here. Oh no, we already bought this upgrade. That's right. All right, so we need that upgrade because we want to be able to put solar cells on our guy here. But we're just going to use the same rocket system that we had before because we know it works. So let's take this whole thing and throw it away. And let's start out with Puncher 5, right? Because we like Puncher 5. It got us into space without a little bit of squirreliness there, but I don't think it was the fault of this bottom portion. I think it might be the aerodynamics going on up here. So let's just get rid of all of this. And we're going to start with a SETI stack probe. There it is. Let's move it up a little bit. Oop. All right, let's zoom in so you guys can see. So let's build the most basic of satellites. Now, I've done this a few times before, so now I'm getting pretty good at it. So one of the things I want is command and control. And this will just give us, like, especially when it's just the satellite, it'll give us, like, much better control at that point. The next thing we probably want to do is talk about the electrical. And I'm not sure how many of these guys we could put on here. But let's see if we can get away with 2 of them. And I say that because I don't know how many parts we're going to use, right? And we only can launch 30 parts. And I definitely want to get some other things on there. But 2 of these may or may not work. We'll see. So we got control to do. Now, I definitely want to get some antennas on here. So we're going to get a squad Communitron antenna, which will let us communicate back to Kerbal. And then the other thing is you have these. So here's how these antennas work. Let me move this out of the way because I have a feeling it might be in the way. Maybe not. This will go to, see how it says Omni range 2.50 million meters, megameters. I'm going to call it million meters. Forgive me. So we can go 2.5 million meters. Well, the moon is 11 million meters away. So this would not reach the moon, but it'll reach back a good distance towards there. So we can eventually set up a satellite network using these communitrons. And then each one of them has a range. So this guy is okay, but it's smaller, right? We definitely could probably use this one, but there's really no significant difference other than this one gets better range. So we might as well use the better range one. I think it's not cheaper. And by the way, this one is very similar. It's just RemoteTech's version versus these are from Squad. But we're going to use this Squad Communitron 16. Now the next thing is we want to make this a relay satellite, meaning like these guys can't communicate necessarily directly to Kerbin's things, but they can communicate to other things. So this one is 3,500, and some of these are like absolutely massive, right? I mean, that's not massive, but yeah, look at this one. So we're not ready for those. And we really don't need to go out that 90 million miles, either here 200 million miles or 9. This is 90,000 million miles. I don't know, a lot. You know, so it's like 90,000 billion. That's a lot. So anyway, we're just going to put 2 of these guys on here, these high gain antennas. So let's hit the X button, and then, no, I never do spin things the right way. How about this one? No. Last choice. Yeah. Okay. We might want to move those down a little bit, but there we go. So now we have that and that. Now we want to get back to electrical. I don't think we need the more expensive ones, and they do weigh, well, no, they do weigh more. So let's just go with these lighter guys here. So we're going to put 2 of these solar things on there. And again, we'll see how many parts we end up with. And then I want to give this guy a little engine that could. And let's see, yeah, fuel tanks. I know this Oscar B. We also have an Oscar B3, but we're just going to go with like this littlest tank that we can. This is just like 3 times the fuel of this one. But this is just a little just in case kind of thing. Now when it comes to the engines, I was looking at these. Like this Valiant is little, but it's also, you know, more of a like a launch rocket. And it's also more expensive. Not that money's that big a deal, but this Pomeranian I like because it has gimbaling. So it does really help you with maneuvering. However, this guy, we already have the reaction wheel, right? And this guy is also lighter than these, which will save on weight. So in other words, if we put this guy on here, we won't be able to like maneuver as much. But if we're just burning this little bit, this reaction wheel is pretty big. So we should have pretty good control. Does that make sense? And it's also the littlest and the cheapest, lightest weight, you know, and I think that'll get us into space pretty well, right? And we don't really need a big, huge rocket by the time we get to this point of the flight, I hope. Now, another thing that we're going to need is to be able to decouple this thing. And we don't have the smaller decouplers, but I know we can come in here and scale this guy down. And then if we look in structural, yeah, I think this is the right adapter. Yeah, we can put this adapter in. Now we got 13 parts. How many? Oop, there we go. 31 parts. Well, let's take a look. I mean, the thing I think I would be, well, here, you know what? Let's take a look at our electrical thing here. You know, we're producing, see, that's, you know what we can do? These are the basic, yeah, you know what? Let's take this off. These solar, this one here, this 3x2 produces more. It's more expensive. But what if we just put Shift X, goes back to one single thing, right? So now we're back down to 30 parts, and we actually have a little bit more power production, and we didn't give up the batteries. So I don't know if we're going to need the batteries for this thing to work well, but if we come to the dark side, let's say we're going to launch this guy and put him at about 200 kilometers out, right? So how far would we need to be? Well, we do this dark side calculator, and if we do 200, and the orbit periapsis is 200, it says that we have a dark side transit. Yeah, how can we click on? Yes, deficit for dark side surface. I'm not sure what that means. Well, the transit is what I think. Oh, I think this is if you're just sitting on the surface of the planet. So we should have plenty of extra power, actually. We could probably really even get rid of one of those batteries. But I'd just as soon have the regular batteries, because we got plenty of production, I think. Right? Yeah. Now, why is this, when we do this, does it tell us? Yeah, like, are we going to recharge this thing fast enough? Well, I would think that we would have to have double the amount, right? So if we're going to use, the total store is 1,800. How much are we going to use? Power for, yeah, we should be able to make twice as much as we need, right? And I think we will, because we've way stored more. I think this will be fine, and if we're not fine, then we'll know. But let's give this guy another name, and we'll call it low orbit orbsat 1. All right, so this is just, a low orbit satellite 1. And we'll save that, and then we can, so I think we're going to, this will just be a real basic kind of test for us. We'll get it up into space, hopefully get out to about 200 kilometers, which will be away from where we do like other stuff in the future, just in case it's floating around out there. Not that we're likely to hit it, but yeah, we got plenty of extra delta V here. That's really, to be honest, almost too much, just because we're so much lighter. Yeah, we could actually get rid of, well, you know what, because this is experimental, let's just go up with the extra delta V. I don't think it's going to cost us that much. One thing you can do here is cut down on the amount of oxidizer. So if you look, see how that's, and I'm assuming these will jump in proportionate. Yeah. See, we could do that, and that really doesn't affect our delta V that much. I don't know if it saves us much money. What do we got, 14,000? Yeah, see, I don't usually mess with those because it really, I think if it affects your weight that much, you can try to shortcut those things, but let's just go with it. This is going to cost, this is a 15 grand experiment in building satellites. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we got 30 parts. Can't add anything else. We're using the same basic rocket. Now here's a question though. You know what? We really don't need that much. Can we? Because we could make a fancier satellite. What does this look like real quick? You know what? That's even enough. So we can, yeah, do we even want a fancier satellite? Like, I guess what the thing we would do is, hey, come on, give me that guy. I would put 2 of these on, right? So now we're up to 27 parts. Why don't we put a little science on this guy? Yeah, we're not going to have a flight computer and all that, are we? How big is this guy? He's little. Let's see what that does to our delta V if we... Yeah, I think we're still in, reasonably good shape. Oh, we got to adjust that. That did add a good amount of weight to it, but it also makes this guy look a little nicer, right? In the sense of these are tucked in. And we can put 2 more parts on here. So this, I don't, seismometer, I don't know why you would take that to space, but do we want the Kerbal engineering system, which is awful nice? The flight computer is also nice. Let's just go with this and a barometer. And we'll put these on the back of this guy. Oh, I need to get out of double symmetry. Shift X. Right, because the flight computer gives us our nice readouts there. Not that we necessarily need them, but yeah, that's kind of like the old school thing. I guess, I guess it's included with the game now, but I still like to see it. The idea of putting a computer on there makes some sense. All right, so we're back up to 30 parts. I think this is a pretty good little relay satellite. We'll find out. We might have been smarter putting more of these things in, but this is just, let's just get it up there before we run out of time for the episode. How's that sound? All right, so we're going to save this again, low orbsat 1. And we're not going to worry about too much. We don't have to get... Oh, what did I do? All right, let's get in here. And let's launch it. And hopefully, like I said, this guy will let us get to these other satellites without issue. Whenever we do other probes. I mean, I don't know if we can count on this to get us past the moon, but but at least it would give us a chance to do like some of those things. So we can't do SAS, but now this is something else new. When we took away that allow probe control, here, I want to get it where you guys can see. Yeah, we could do a materials study, so we should probably grab that science at some point. Maybe not right now. But we're going to use this flight computer from now on. So this is a little bit of a change from if we did a probe in the past. Everything needs to be done with this. So we're not going, once we get up into space, we're not going to be able to control it any longer. We're just literally not going to be able to, you can't control it by hitting the keys or using your Xbox controller, whatever you're using for flight. So we're going to need to get up there, get our antennas extended. There's a better way to say it. And then we're going to need to be able to get our solar panels extended while we're doing everything else. So, and then the other thing is we're going to burn, and we're going to use like hand control to get it going. But then once we launch, oh, you know what we didn't do? I didn't change these. Yeah, thrust to weight ratio, too low. I don't want to recover a vessel. I'm just going to, because we didn't go anywhere, let's revert to vehicle assembly. It's not going to make a great difference to us, but let's right click on here. Let's get this up to about, what were we at, 1.3 something? Yeah, let's try 1.35. Should be good. All right, let's save it again. Yeah, you definitely need to check your delta V's. Now this is at 1.6, so when we get out here, we'll take our throttle up to about 2/3. So let me throttle up and then back down. There we go, 2/3 throttle. We can't use SAS anymore, but we can use this thing. So anyway, once we burn off these boosters, we are going to then, get this guy going manually, and then we're going to fly with this from then on, which I think is pretty realistic, right? If you had a space probe, you're not going to have people up there to do things. And then eventually we'll be able to do action groups, which we can consider. I don't know if you can control the action groups through here, but whatever. Let's get this thing launched. All right, are we ready? Let's just check our staging one last time. Yep, then that. Yep, then blow that off, and then we have another little rocket, and then another little rocket. And this is probably, we'll see. Let's just see how it goes. All right, so let's try to get this guy up into space. 3, 2, 1, go. And we're going to try to do an equatorial orbit. And like I said, 200 kilometers up here on our apoapsis. So this means we're really, let's turn it a little bit to this direction. Don't go too far when get your surface speed up a little bit there, or else you're going to flip over. And it's like walking on a knife's edge, just a little bit too much is way too much kind of thing. Just going to try to hold her steady and not do anything dramatic. Just go straight up until you're done with these boosters. Trying to stay about on the 90 here, though it doesn't matter too much at this point. If your flight path is straight up like ours is, it's easy to change. It's when it's like all the way around the planet that it's hard to change your flight path. But we're doing pretty well here. I'm just going to let it sit. Alright, boosters have cleared. We're going to start tilting this guy over some. And here we go. So now that we're here, right, I'm going to hit this prograde button. It's going to bring us out to there. Heading 90, see that? Now pitch 90, I'm not real sure. I could probably do this better, right? Now let's do full throttle. Oh, I can't change. Oh, you know what? Let's get this antenna extended. Okay, activate the antenna. Is that why we're... There we go. Now I can control it again. So see, even that, I needed to get that antenna going kind of ASAP, right? So let's let's burn to her about 100. On the Apple axis there, that is. You know what, we're going to go a little bit, 110, just so there's... There we go. So now let's get over into here real quick, and we need to set up a node, and then we need to tell this guy to burn to that node. So add maneuver, and right off the bat, I'm going to come over here and say move to the node, right? So that he starts moving, because we're not going to control it manually any longer, right? Now we need to tell this guy to burn. Okay, let's pull this back a little bit. We just want to kind of circularize it. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's good enough, as a matter of fact. So now what we can do is we don't have to open this, but we can execute. And in 1 minute, he's going to start burning this 30-second burn for us. And so from now on, for this flight, I'm not going to control this thing with the Xbox controller at all. We're just going to let this guy do it, which I think is... when you hear about what they do with these satellites, they upload a program to it and then the satellite does its thing. So let's see, we got 49 seconds. Let me just hit +5 a little bit, just for the sake, we're not out of time yet, but just for the sake of keeping the video moving. There we go. So now we should be able to burn and get into somewhat of an orbit. Really, we should probably burn. Yeah, we could burn longer until we got out to the 200, but yeah, we only have 2. Let's just let them burn this, and then we'll burn again in a minute. Yeah, we got enough in this stage. Let's do N. Yeah, we don't have too much fuel left, and of course it's dark when we're doing this. It just seems to be dark like 90% of the time, doesn't it? So let's see. We can get our... let's extend all solar panels. We can activate this antenna. Oh, it spun around on me while I was trying to do that. Yep, activate this antenna. So good. So now we're fully extended. So now let's come up back to this map mode. How far ahead is this? No. Let's go a little further. Yeah, 3 minutes. Time to add another maneuver. Really doesn't matter. I mean, I know you can burn more effectively at a different thing, but you know what? We're just going to burn until our Apple axis is at about 200. And then we can fine tune it with this. Ooh. And you can move this guy to where you want to slow down the ability to move, right? So we can each give it real little tweaks. So if you really wanted to be fine, you could tweak that down. And you don't have to click like I am. You could probably have done it a little bit faster. Yeah, it's just over 200. Now we're going to say execute, right? And this, because it's under 3 minutes, it just went right into moving us over here. But we'll try to put this in a nice eccentric orbit. Yep, there we go. Now, because we're under 3 minutes, I'm not gonna do anything but just let's fast forward time by 10. And then when we get, it's only a 1 second burn, so we'll try to get this down to about 20 seconds. There we go, close enough. That should give him plenty of time to make any final second adjustments. Now you got to make sure that before you do that fast forwarding, make sure you're already pointed at the blue, okay? So otherwise you may mess yourself up. Here we go, so just a tiny bit over 200 there. And then what we'll do is let's come over now to our new Apple axis. We'll add a maneuver, which will happen in 16 minutes. But that maneuver will get us out to 200 and 200, right? We'll try to circularize the orbit. Now, I know that when people are doing these things, they usually... Okay. So now we can fine-tune. I think if we go Yeah, let's go back. You know, we can drag it a little bit. There we go. A little bit more. Or are we just trying to be too fine-tunish? Yeah, being too fine-tunish. Yeah, that's about as close as we're going to get, and certainly as close as we need to be. So notice that we're not pointing at all at our thing. And this is because when we spin all the way around, we need to be in the opposite direction, if that makes sense, when we go all the way around. So let's come over here and click on Node. And I kind of like to let this guy settle out before I fast forward. So that way when I get to the fast forwarding part, it doesn't usually take them more than 3 minutes to do this. But we're also, note this, we don't have enough fuel in this stage. Say we're going to have to go to the next stage, which is fine and expected. And by the way, with these maneuver nodes, you can figure out if you have enough fuel to do another. Like if we decide we want to move this satellite further out, we can eventually put more maneuver nodes out there, and we can kind of add up the delta V that we'll need. And that will, you know, just a way of calculating it more or less. Like once the guy's up in space, it's a little bit late to figure it out. But again, if you're just trying to mess around, I learned that you can figure out if you can get how far, right? All right, so there we go. So let's, we can open the Kerbal alarm clock if you're worried, but if you notice there is no alarm here, but so hit execute first, and it adds an alarm, and then if we hit like fast forward times 100, we'll zip right around there, and it should stop us in plenty of time. And see how that's spun right around, like to the right direction? Delete. Yeah, it's a click-through issue there, by the way. There we go. So now, like I said, because we're already pointing at this, we can, so again, it's only a 1 second burn. We can do a little 10 times speed and get that guy around. And we'll go down to about 20 seconds. You got 10 seconds left or whatever, 8 seconds. Guess you guys can see down here better. And then we should burn and just circularize the orbit pretty well. What happened there? Oh. And there we go. That was my fault. I forgot about having to stage. Well, there we go. So we got plenty of extra fuel to do some more experiments in the future, right? Like we could send this guy probably pretty far off into space, which is why I was thinking about, you know, you can calculate things in the future. So let's make sure, yeah, everything is running on him. Can we send back any science? Well, if we do the materials study now, we'll never be able to redo it. So let's do it. Yeah, and we don't get a huge amount unless we bring it back, but that's fine. All right, so I think yeah, we got a little bit of science there. So better than a sharp stick in the eye, right? As they say. Now see how these panels stick out there and they kind of rotate to the sun a little bit? So what we can do even is turn this guy. Oh no, we can't. Yeah, there's probably a way to turn him using this, but whatever. We're fine. We're making plenty of juice, and we'll see how he makes out over time. The last thing I want to do, though, let's go back to the map mode, just because it's a little bit easier to handle it from here. There's the two antennas. Now you have to target them. So see this cone thing here? This thing here is telling you which one it's attached to. So let's zoom in here. See this? We are speaking on this green one, but yet it could speak to these other two. And that's what this does. This lets you toggle between seeing all three of those or just the one. Now this one tells you which direction that your high gain antennas, like the dish antennas, are pointing. And then this one lets you turn off one or the other, right? And then this is like the button that opens the screen. So we're going to come up here and say, we want one of you to always be pointing at the active vessel, which in this case is nothing because we are the active vessel, right? But in other words, if we're trying to put a satellite up, just because we're pointing at that satellite, we'll be able to control it better because this guy is a much further away antenna. And in addition, like if we go to put like a satellite up where there's no thing, we could use this to relay to that satellite, right? Does that make sense? Let's just pretend, like if you look at here, all these stations around Kerbin, they have to be in line of sight. So if this station doesn't reach our satellite, which is up here because it's being blocked by the Earth or the Kerbal, then this should be far enough away that we can, like it would help with longer things. Now the problem is, let's say the other target, for example, we're going to put it to the moon because that is, now see that's now because this is actually a target and not ourselves. See how this band came out here? So see, it's going to look for anything that's going towards the moon. And as long as it's in line of sight, which it isn't, is the problem. So what happens is that if you want full control over something heading to the moon, you need to have a network of satellites so that one of them is always able to see the moon, right? Like that two of them could never be behind here. So it turns out that if you put a network of 3 of these up here, you kind of are absolutely guaranteed. But to be honest, we probably only need 2. Like if we could put another satellite up opposite this one, we would really have pretty good control. Does that make sense? Some of the videos you're going to watch with the 3 satellites, I think the reason they were talking about that is because they don't have the extra ground stations. Like see this Kerbal Space Center? Like this would be their only one. So they needed 3 satellites so that they could ping off of each other, as well as being able to go off into other places in space with their relaying, right? Does that make sense? But because we have these extra ground stations, I think we're going to just try to get away with having 2 of these kind of low orbit satellites, right? And then what we'll do is we'll talk about getting this next satellite into orbit. Then I think that's it, because we need to get some money going, right? I don't know how much money we have right now. But like in the beginning of the next episode, I would picture, let's try to launch a satellite and get it going to the opposite side. And we'll do like the same thing with it, right? And I think that'll just really help us guarantee like a lot more coverage in the things that we want to do. And we won't be losing connected coverage doing like really simple things. So if you look at hover here, see that's 11 million miles, 11.4 million miles. So, our omnidirectional things wouldn't work. So that's why we need these dish ones. And then these dishes are really nice because they're really broad. Like see how that's a pretty big angle that we're trying to cover. So see, now that we come around there, we would, once we got from behind the Earth or Kerbal, we'll actually be able to see the moon. We would be in good shape. There, so I hope that makes sense. And again, we got 2 satellites on there, and then hopefully this is worth the extra money. And trust me, it probably is from my little experiments with how we can make this work. So there we go, right? You want to plan these things out before you just launch expensive space missions. So I spent quite a bit of time making this episode. Hopefully the next one will be nice and quick. Okay, guys. Well, let's see. Let's head back real quick and just see. Yeah, this guy I think's in good shape. We're just going to leave him go for now. Let's close this. Yep, we can't do any more science or anything. All right, goodbye, buddy. Let's go to the Space Center. We probably could have gone. I just want to check before we leave. How are our guys doing? If we go to the tracking center, tracking station. Puncher 5. Let's fly in Puncher 5. Over here. There we go. So are you guys still alive? Yes. You were scaring me with the with the thing there. And how is our electricity doing? Pretty well. However, are we fully charged? I mean, that's the most important thing. See what I mean about getting these guys to, to get good sun, if that makes sense. Like, we were getting some. I don't know how much shadows count, but at least we're facing the sun, and we seem to be getting enough of a portion that our batteries are going. But if we just had that little guy, like the original guy on here, that might cause you problems at times. It might be the difference between life and death. So good. These guys are in good shape. I just wanted to check on them before we left. And we'll check on them some point in the next episode too. All right. Well, let me go back to the Space Center and we'll call it quits from there. So I consider this, a pretty successful thing. We got a relay satellite. We can talk about, launching some more satellites, or do we go for one of those satellite contracts in the next episode? It sort of depends on our confidence with our relay satellite, I think, which pretty confident about it. So anyway, we'll see. But I maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it in the very beginning of the next episode. I'll have a few minutes to decide. I'm going to record these episodes back to back so that if you don't, if you leave a comment and I don't respond till after this video, in a sense, or if I don't do anything about it in the next video, that's the reason why. Okay, guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.